Hey, I'm Todd. Thanks for choosing to watch my video, and if you would subscribe it, like it, all that stuff, that'd be great. Otherwise, enjoy the video, and I hope it gives you the information you need and is helpful to you. Take care. Doing the rear disc brakes on a 2009 and other model years Hyundai Elantra. Here's a selection of tools I'll be using for the job. 19 millimeter. Actually, it's going to be a 21 millimeter for the lug nuts. Got that around here somewhere on my gun, probably. 21 millimeter lug nut, 17 millimeter for a bolt with a 17 millimeter wrench, torque wrenches, a couple screwdrivers, impact driver with a screwdriver, Phillips screwdriver tip, 14 millimeter. You want to use a breaker bar, torque wrench, maybe got a pair of channel locks, large channel locks for collapsing the pistons, and some ceramic extreme brake parts lubricant there, so brake cleaner. Flashlight is always a good idea, see what you're doing. That's pretty much it. So we'll move over to the tire. Got our 21 millimeter lug nuts, everything, the bolts and nuts, everything's going to be left to loosen, right to tighten. So got I don't have a tripod or anything to hold the camera, so we're going to take some shots, and they'll take stuff apart, and take some shots and take stuff apart. So left to loosen, so we'll just be taking those off, and we'll get to the caliper and rotor and pads. Alright, so we got two Phillips screws in here. May or may not need the impact driver for that. One little rubber inspection hole plug, probably for the emergency brake shoes that are inside there. Caliper mounting bracket, brake rotor, bleeder screw, which we won't really deal with. 14 millimeter, 17 millimeter, and then there's a 14 millimeter bolt here and up top to hold the bracket itself on. And we'll have to take this 17 millimeter nut and bolt out of here to get to that bolt, because they were nice enough to tuck it back there for us, so we couldn't just get to it. So I will show you this. I like to collapse the calipers first. Get this in here, because you can do it on here. See, the screwdriver's poking all the way through. I'm just going to pull it back. It should pull back pretty easy if the caliper's working properly. Then we can check the slides. You can see that moving real nice. I'll stick my screwdriver in between the brake pad. Between the brake pad and the brake rotor. And I can collapse the piston all the way if I wanted to, which I can. Boom. Our piston is now collapsed. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 14 millimeter bolt out. Left to loosen. Which is when you're the opposite when you're facing the other way. Sorry about the bumpy camera there. Look at that, lifts right up. Boom. At this point, if you're super cheap, don't have a lot of money, take your brake pads out. They just slide out, basically. You could throw a couple new pads on here, drop it down, put the bolt in, boom, you'd be done in a few minutes. But best practice is to get the rotor machined or replaced. But again, if the money's really tight and they're really thin, you can certainly do that. So, but we're not going to do that. We're going to pull this out. We just pulled it out like that. We'll set this off to the side for now. And we're going to work on the two bolts. We'll take the 14 millimeter bolt out of here. There's one hiding back here. So we're going to take this bolt out. Going to make sure that the flat part of this bolt rubs up evenly against the shock. Shouldn't be a huge deal, but we'll be taking the nut off and driving this through. Alright, so I got my wrench on there. I can take that off now. I'm actually going to go ahead and loosen this up a little bit. I think it helps, maybe a little, to get that bracket out of there, or the bolt. Ugh. So I'm going to break that loose. Trust me, I will. All right, got that loosened up a little bit. I'm going to use a plastic mallet hammer to knock that through a bit, and we'll probably finish it off with a screwdriver. A screwdriver through here, and just knock it out the rest of the way. It's going to be a real tight fit against here, so again, try and make sure the flat edge gets against the flat of the shock when you do this. So I'm not going to be able to hold the camera, but here's the idea. Screwdriver. Maybe a punch is going to be better for you. You just don't want to damage the threads on your bolt. That's really the main thing. Don't damage your threads on your bolt. All right. Interesting symbol here. Check it out. Two symbols, huh? Hyundai and Kia. Interesting. We can get to our 14mm bolt and take this off, and then we can get to take the brake rotor off next. Let's just see if we can get this off here. See, it's going to turn on me when I'm holding the camera, so I'll be pausing and seeing if I can get those loose. So when I come back, we'll have these off. This will be out, and this will be off. All right, so we got our caliper off. In my new brake pads, I got some new mounting pieces. And of course the brake shoes, I already put the other side together. So, they just kind of have a friction fit down here in this crack. That's really all that holds them in place. Just gonna pull them out. See the little friction tabs on there, so they just sit in here. Just gotta kind of push it down into the hole. That's really it. Same with the other side, of course. Then got some purple lubricant we can put on the slide as well. Again, check it and see it slides. Put this on here. Going to be a little more forceful in pushing those fingers down in the hole there. So we got the caliper off, got the rotor off, tapped it with a hammer and got it off after we took the Phillips screws out. So we got the new rotor on. We'll take this off so I can again show you when my camera stopped working or something. Emergency brake shoes in here. They look to be in good shape. We'll just match up the holes and slide this back on. We'll put our Phillips screws in, put that rubber plug in that we took out, or we'll take out right there. Push it in place. Got our caliper here. Got our two new metal pieces in here. Just a little metal friction fit in the center there. Holds it in place. Just pull the old ones off and push the new ones into place. Going to come out, see, like that. Push into place. Got some purple lubricant on the slide here. Just go ahead and mount this back up. we'll just put that on there, mount it up with the 2 bolts, and start continuing the assembly process. So there's enough clearance on the backside. You can certainly drive this bolt right back in the other way instead of trying to drive it through the back way. It could be a little tougher for you. I'll be used a screwdriver right through here, this hole here, to drive it back the way it came. But you're more than welcome to drive it through, as you've probably maybe seen in other videos. People go just back the other way. So let's put that there. Tap it up with a hammer. Line it up close, and then use a large punch or screwdriver or something and get it lined up as best as possible to drive your bolt through. So you just take a screwdriver. It moves fairly easy. You can see. You can certainly do that to help get the bolt started, and you can kind of screw it in and it'll kind of work its way back in probably. You have to fiddle with this a little bit to get it to go through, but I think it'll be just fine going through that way and put the nut on it. I think I'm still going the right way though. Sit in there and get it started, and then I'm going to wiggle this. I should be able to use my hand to get it started on the back side. So unfortunately, I have got no one to hold the camera while I use my hands to do all this work, though. So I'm going to have to cut away, but I'm very confident you can get it through the hole. We got our bolt in, got both ends tightened, got our brake pads in here. I got no squealer on this one here for the outer pad. Gonna put it in at an angle, I believe, and push it in. Driver's side squealer on the bottom here. I put it in at an angle again. Give it a twist. It goes in. Got our caliper here. Guess I'm going to let the aluminum caliper hang for a few seconds here. I don't think it puts that great of a strain on the hose with an aluminum caliper of this size. Slide it in and drop it down into place. I haven't needed the 17 millimeter for that, but in case you do, in case it's turning all the time, 17 millimeter, and we put our 14 millimeter bolt back in. Tighten it down. Okay, the bolt torque for the caliper carrier is what they call this thing right here, is about 57 to 72, quite a range there, surprisingly. And then the caliper assembly they want you to put on is going to be about 15.9 to 23 for these two bolts right here. So those are the two main bolts there they want you to do. Lug nuts are probably about 80 foot-pounds is my guess, and although they probably have a range, 65 to 80 foot-pounds for the lug nuts. 72 to 87 foot-pounds for the bolts and bolt and nut setup here for this arm right here. So next, then we'll get in the car and we'll pump the brakes a few times so the piston can come out and set itself where it needs to be. Then we'll check and top off the brake fluid as necessary. So here's the brake fluid on the driver's side rear here. It's a cap, .3 brake fluid. We'll probably add a little bit to it. There's a maximum and a minimum on the side. Not sure how well you can see it on the camera, but it's there, so it's just below the max. So we'll top it off a little bit, and that'll be good. We pumped up the brakes. So this is replacing your rear brake pads, rear brake rotor on your 2009 Hyundai Elantra. I'm sure other model years also for a Kia. That's going to be pretty obvious with the Kia insignia right on that piece of metal. So good luck to you. So we got to put the lug nuts on, of course. So here's they're on tight. So I broke this one loose, so it's loose. So that's on basically finger tight. Got my torque wrench set to 79.5. Let's see what happens here. See how far I have to go. So that was almost 180 degrees from finger tight. Of course, that was after I tightened them all down to 80 foot-pounds. I backed one off so I could show you this. So just think about that. It's best to use a torque wrench. Otherwise, snug them down tight so the wheel doesn't fall off. That's really most important.